So I'm in Lanzarote and I've been cycling this Conor Bali e-bike over the last 4 days. I've cycled about 180 kilometers, ascended about 1,500 meters or more. So I've given it a really good test ride. I think it's definitely the sort of thing that would be an option if you were considering cycle touring, and I'll explain that in a bit more detail. And that 250 watt rear hub Bafang motor is in fact what a lot of people would be looking at. So although this particular brand, Conor Bali, might be a little unusual, the plane going over there, that 250 watt rear motor would be something that a lot of people would come across. So in a way, I'm actually both reviewing this general bike, but also looking at that motor, and does it have enough power in it? Combined with the battery, does it have enough range? In brief, the answer to those is yes, but here it is in a bit more detail. Looking around the bike, front fork suspension, disc brakes, battery 470 watt hours I think on that one. It can be up to about 550. Rear hub motor, I think this has got 6 gears on it. It's got an integrated lighting system that you turn on via the controller, and of course rear disc brakes as well. So that's a reasonably good spec overall. The control is very simple. It's plus minus to bring the power assist up or down, an on-off switch at the back. If you hold down the plus, then the lights come on. So they're the kind of key configurations. A battery indicator with 5 bars, so each of those bars presumably corresponding to about 20% of a battery charge. I'm on level 2 at the moment, which is more than enough. Just popping down there to level 1, which absolutely fine for flat cycling. I have taken it up the hills quite a distance, so I've tested it out. I've never needed to go above level 4, to be honest, and here in the Canaries the volcanos are very steep-sided, so I would take that as being very positive that it would probably be capable of dealing with any hills you encounter. It's interesting to compare with my own bike because it's about €1,000 cheaper. I've seen various prices, but this seems to be new, about 1,700, and I've seen ones on offer for as low as 1,450, I think, but I suspect that might be last year's model of the previous year. Also feels very similar weight. One thing I'm not keen on is the rear hub motor. It's a much less natural feeling in terms of the assist. It feels more like somebody giving the bike a shove, basically, particularly as you start up, rather than integrating with your own pedaling. I think the rear hub motors they have a couple of advantages. One is having a lot of the weight on the back wheel makes the bike more stable. And the second is because you're not putting the motor power through the drive chain, I'd expect you'd have less wear of the chain in particular, which is a thing with e-bikes. You need to replace chains at relatively short distances, even if you're using modest assist levels like I would normally. I've been testing it on Lanzarote over the last 4 days, and I have done 2 cycles of 60 and 65 kilometers with about over 700 meters of ascent, a lot of that on very steep slope. I actually found it to be pretty good. So could you use it as a touring bike? My answer to that would be absolutely yes. It's got the battery, the ranges I was getting on the battery would tell me if I was staying in the lowest assist mode, even on quite tough terrain that you get here, I would be getting about 150 kilometers out of a full battery charge. Spec-wise, I'll put the weight in down below when I look it up, but basically it's about the same weight as my Rally Motors Tour, so that's probably around 22 kilograms, something like that. So that's light enough to get on and off a train. It looks quite like a normal bike, so it will fit in train slots. That's quite important to the sort of touring I do. It also means if you're while camping that you can lift it over things. I can lift it up and down the stairs, all that. So the weight is perfectly manageable, and I'll show you some footage on the bike to show you how the controller works. but basically it's very basic 5 assist levels. It has a Bluetooth connection, so you can connect to it with your phone. The things I prefer with mine, there's no crossbar. I find that when you're going downhill fast, there's more of a wobble in the bike. It's quite hard. I took this up to about 42 kilometers an hour, and it started to feel a little bit dicey at that speed. I've done 62 coming downhill on my own bike, without a wobble actually. But you know, that's not that big of a deal probably in most cases. It has an internal battery. I don't have a key for the battery, so I haven't had a chance to check how easy that is to remove and insert. The only thing is, it is at least on the top of the bar, and my experience is the top ones are generally easier to take out. But mine has an external battery, which I greatly prefer, because it means it's quite quick to do informal charging in a pub or a ferry or that sort of thing, and also quite straightforward. If you're staying in a hotel, bring the battery up to your room, rather than having to try and get the whole bike in. Now, as I said, there's a lock on this battery, so therefore that means it can be unlocked and removed, I would presume. It also means you could buy a second battery. Yeah, I would say it's definitely a bike you could tour on, back carry, etc. Could carry stuff. Lost the crossbar, you know, that means you're losing some storage things, but it definitely has the range. It has 5 assist levels, and even on the very steep hills you get in the volcanos here in Lanzarote, I've only ever needed to actually go up to the 4th one. Well, not even needed. The luxury going up to the 4th one, I haven't touched the 5th at all. So it has enough power, certainly, to help you with that. Unless you're carrying a very large amount of weight or you're quite heavy yourself, then it might become a bit of an issue. The charger that comes with it is only a 2 amp charger. Now, that is a downside to me, because that would mean it would take 5 hours to fully recharge the battery, maybe 6 hours, quite a long time, which is not a good idea for informal charging. You can probably get higher ampage chargers, however, for it. I mean, I have a Bosch fast charger for my own bike that I bought as an add-on later on, and that's a 6 amp charger. So that, as you will know, greatly speeds up the charging process. You could definitely, I mean, if budget is a major concern for you, then this actually is quite a good option. It's a much better option than that Decathlon bike I looked at last year, which just wouldn't have the actual range. And it's also a look at that Bafang rear hub drive, 250 watt. That is really quite a standard drive, and I suspect a lot of people will be putting that on themselves as an option. So yeah, overall I would say thumbs up to this. I don't like it as much as my own bike, but it is about €1,000 cheaper, and that's quite an appreciable saving for people. I'll be posting videos of a couple of the routes I cycled in Lanzarote, including one through the volcanic national park. And also how you get on a bicycle out of the airport. That's always a favourite. I did see some other people cycle touring when I was there, even though this time I was taking the soft option and I had an apartment by the beach and was just doing one-day cycle trips. If you've enjoyed the video, please do give it a like and give the channel a follow. About 2/3 of my content here is various cycling adventures. In particular, I'd recommend you check out the month I spent cycling around Spain this year, and a similar time cycling around Scotland the previous year. And do have a look at my Instagram, also called eBike Touring Life. I tend to post stuff live there as I actually do it. Finally, I will be posting links in the descriptions to the other e-bike reviews I have done. That's the video description. And I'd encourage you, if you know anything more about this bike, or that Bafang 250 watt motor than I've said myself in this video, do post a comment. I encourage people to read the comments. Often they contain worthwhile additional information. Hope you liked it all, and hopefully one day I will see you on the road.